Welcome to the Morning Track Power Hour. I'm Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Warman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll preview the NFL's Week 3 and provide our locks of the week, as we do every week during the NFL season, when they have not been so good so far this year. So we're hopefully trending about to be trending in a different direction from what we have been doing. We'll also talk about the seemingly playoff bound Kansas City Royals. We each had an in-person visit to a Royals game in this last week. But we'll start today's show what we normally do during the NFL season with a recap of last week's games and talk about our betting competition again. So Mike, last week 1 was mostly favorites winning games. Week 2 was quite chaotic. Lots of underdogs winning. Like, I think I've asked you this question before. I'll see if you have changed your opinion on this. Do you prefer when watching NFL games, like to see the chaos, like rooting for underdogs, or do you like for betting purposes, just seeing like all the favorites winning every time, and just to make sure your sure bets go through each week? What are you looking for in a week?
Well, I like to see when the teams I think are going to win, the teams I think are going to lose, whether they're
Yeah.
the favorites or the underdogs. That's more of a selfish uh, perspective, I think, that I have. I guess I did enjoy some of the favorites going down. I thought it was a little bit funny. I I was very surprised at a couple of the results. Probably the most surprising was the Baltimore loss to the Raiders. To me, the Dallas loss was somewhat surprising, especially the way it happened when they were blown out so badly by New Orleans. But I think still the loss, the Baltimore Ravens loss at home, coming off a long layoff after the Chiefs game that they lost, and that they gave it up. They were ahead, and they gave up quite a few points in the fourth quarter to Gardner Minshew and the Raiders. So that was
Wow.
probably the most surprising. It seemed like most of the really big upsets happened in the early games in the 1 o'clock slate. Once we got to the later or the noon slash 1 o'clock games, once we got to the later afternoon, it was a little bit less chaotic. There were some near upsets, like the Chiefs almost got upset by the Bengals. But for the
That's not
most,
wouldn't have been like a huge upset. It's somewhat expected that that game's going to be
yeah,
tight at least anyway.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, in at least the as time went on, the games were a little bit more predictable. The favorites won. The Texans beat the Bears that we expected. I think maybe later slate of games, the Cardinals victory over the Rams by 31 points was quite a bit. I think surprising to both of us. I think we both probably thought the Rams would either at least win or at least it would be a close game uh, that week. So I guess there were still some issues in the later slate, but it seems like things settled down a little. It was like more normal what happened. Maybe one game out of four was strange rather than three games out of four being strange. Did you have a favorite strange game that you happen to see? In anything tickle your fancy, especially?
Well, I think yeah, one of the most surprising thing was that New Orleans is able to score so freely against seemingly everyone they played so far. It's only been 2 weeks, but what they're at 91 points for the season, and they've only played 2 games. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
We definitely didn't expect Dallas to be giving up 40 plus points to anybody, especially you know somebody who's not really thought of as an offensive juggernaut.
no.
And, yeah. So I guess this is maybe where Dallas was relying on all those defensive crazy plays and getting touchdowns on the defensive side. Maybe that's not coming their way like you suggested could happen, less flukiness, I guess, and or in Dallas, I guess. Then
Yeah, it seems like much of the success of New Orleans is their new offensive coordinator. Do you know his name?
mm,
Son
no, I
of
don't know.
son of former NFL offensive coordinator Gary Kubiak is
Oh,
Clint Kubiak. How do you think Clint is spelled?
hmm. Well, I have to assume it's very traditionally. It's Clint, is it not? Is it not?
It's Klint, Clint Kubiak. KK. What do you think his middle name is?
Hopefully, it's not another K name. No, no Keith.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's not Keith. Just don't be Keith, Mike.
Clint Alexander
Uh,
Kubiak. So KAK. So that's a little better. He's the oldest son of former um, NFL coach Gary Kubiak. He has two younger brothers. Clay. How do you think Clay is spelled?
well, I'm going to assume it's also with a K.
KLA. Clay Kubiak is the uh, offensive pass game specialist for the 49ers, son of Gary Kubiak, also former head coach of the Texans and Broncos. And he also has a son named Klein, a national scout for Dallas Cowboys. So three sons with K, Kubiak first names, somewhat reminiscent of Roger Clemens's kids, who all have K names, right? Isn't Cody Clemens?
Hmm.
Cody Clemens is still is in the league. Um,
Is that with a K then?
yeah, he's Cody with a K. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Um, he has three brothers. Kobe, who's also a major league player, or he's a former professional player. I guess he sort of washed out in the minors.
Kobe, like spelled like Kobe Bryant, or
Koby, Kobe, Corey. So they're only one name apart. They're only one letter apart. There's a Kobe, a Cody, Corey, and then there's Casey, which throws everything off. He's K-A-C. He should be Kosi. Why his name is Casey instead of Kosi is a travesty, I think, Dr.
now is that
Scout.
K? Is that Kacey?
K-A-C-Y.
Just Kacy?
Yeah.
So he didn't. They stuck pretty closely to that. They're all four-letter names then. And,
Four-letter names ending in Y, but they all had the second vowel was O for the first three, and then
yeah.
Casey, I guess they couldn't think of a Cody, Kobe, Corey, and Coley or Comey or
Cozy.
Cozy, Koji. Yeah, yeah.
Or do you want to go with Kofi, like after Kofi and on?
Kofi, yeah. Yes, after UN Secretary General Kofi Annan,
Exactly.
I'm sure he is beloved, much beloved in the Clemens household.
Exactly. See, we're on the same page, Mike.
Spelled with a Y though to continue their tradition.
Yeah.
But would you rather be named Clint Kubiak with a K? Clemens is a C last name, so but
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. Just seems like K is. But they're having three sons, all with K names, and they have. Yeah, it's like that's not great.
So those are seven grown men now with K first names that are not names that should start with K.
Yes.
I think that's seven too many.
They're all pretty close to. They'd be in like the same generation then, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Or maybe, or the Kubiak's a little older.
Clint Kubiak was born in 87, so he's 37.
He's not.
Uh,
They're not. So yeah. So the Clemens kids are
well,
probably only early 30s, right? Or
Kobe
not.
Clemens is 37. Cody Clemens is only 28. So
Yeah.
they're all that kind of millennial
Yeah.
age. But
Yeah, they would all be in the same, like generational group at least anyway.
yeah, yeah, Clint Kubiak. Yeah. Um, anyway, but yeah, Clint Kubiak, his supposedly it's his offensive coordinating that is leading the Saints to new heights.
Uh,
So he might be the next hot commodity in the coaching ranks. Another son of a former coach you know how I feel about sons of coaches, the nepotism in the coaching ranks,
Legacy,
like
legacy coaches.
legacy coaches. Yes, in some
You're a big
cases
fan.
it's worked out okay, but I
Eventually, you'll end up writing a book about this, right? The legacy coaches by Dr.
like
Michael Orman, Esquire.
yes, legacy coaches. Uh, yeah, or maybe just writing that or writing the coattails, the legacy coach maybe coach tale, maybe coach tales, COAC.
Yes, there
Yeah,
you go. There you
yeah,
go.
coach tales, legacy coaches
Yeah,
in the
now, you've
NFL.
already got the title. I mean, the book basically writes itself at
It
this
will
point.
write
You
itself.
think?
Yeah, it'll be full of David Shula's and um, who's our or what was Mr. Hackett's for Sean Hack? What was
Oh, Nathaniel Hackett was
Nathaniel Hack? Nathaniel
your
Hack.
buddy.
My,
Yeah,
yeah, I couldn't I couldn't think of it.
you could have
Uh,
all the minor Schottenheimers and
about
the
four, yeah, about four generations of Schottenheimers.
oh,
Um, yeah,
the
yeah,
Moras.
yeah. Kip Lombardi or somebody like that. If he's around. I'm sure Vince Lombardi has some sort of no good son that tried to coach. Steve Belichick. There's I'm sure there's some other Belichicks around. I think Steve Belichick was a scout, but I think there's also a we have the I guess we have the Reed children, the Andy Reid's kids haven't turned out so good in the coaching uh
Yeah,
ranks or the scouting ranks. Um
they make the news every once in a while, but it's not for their
no,
coaching.
no. I was trying to see if Vince Lombardi had any children. Um they do have a son, Vince Lombardi Jr., but I don't know what Vince Lombardi Jr. Oh, Lombardi's grandson, Joe Lombardi, has served as an assistant coach in the NFL since 2006. He's currently the offensive coordinator for what team do you think?
Hmm. I don't know.
Think of a team with a not very good offense. I would
Uh, Not like maybe Carolina.
the Denver Broncos.
Oh, okay, doesn't make sense at all.
Joe Lombardi, catch of the Denver Broncos.
So grandson of
Grandson
Vince
of Vince
Williams.
Lombardi. Yeah.
Okay.
hmm Yeah, he's been the offensive coordinator for the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Lions.
Hmm.
He was one of Sean Payton. He came along with Sean Payton.
Hmm.
But should we talk about we're veering off track, I think, with our legacy coaches and names of extra K names. We already have our Bo Nix train of names that are inappropriate for NFL players.
Yes. It's becoming a
Like
trend here.
Clint Kubiak is proving us wrong with his comedy K names. He really hits it hard, the Clint Kubiak. Um, but yeah, so what any other we will before we talk about the Chiefs, I think we're both interested in maybe dissecting the Chiefs game a little bit more closely. Were there any other results that were surprising or interesting to you in week number two?
Well, yeah, Philly losing on Monday Night Football was a little surprising, I think, too. Game stayed close, but I suppose probably the big story of the week though is probably what Tua Tagovailoa
Yeah,
ending up with another
no concussion.
concussion on a Thursday night game, and they're like big loss to Buffalo.
Buffalo won that game really easily. They looked and it didn't really require any Josh Allen heroics. It was just running the
And
football, and they won big. And then Tua got hurt. Now we had talked about how the quarterback room in Miami it didn't look very strong backing up Tua, especially because Tua is is injury has been injury prone over the years. It's going to be Skylar Thompson, former K-State quarterback, as the starter. I don't know how good that's going to be going forward. They just put two on IR, I think, earlier today, so he's going to miss at least the next 4 games.
These 4 games, and
You think that he should be contemplating retirement at this point? Some people were calling for that a couple of years ago when he had the bad concussions in successive.
yeah, after having at least one in college, then too. So well,
Yeah.
this is, I think, 4 concussions that have been documented, at least at least and then well known about anyway on
It seemed like
television
there was at
even.
least
So
one possible concussion in the NFL that he was allowed to go back in the game. Or
mhm,
yeah,
that's right. So yeah, I mean, you'd think he'd have to consider it, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they called for him to consider retiring several years ago, and then he played really well last season and managed to not take any significant injuries
he took
last season. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, he's going to want to play, but you could understand it, I think, if he decided that that was enough.
yeah, he took like jujitsu classes to learn how to fall better and to gain some weight to try to maybe absorb hits a little better. But this
Yeah,
one was a little bit different because it wasn't like like we think of. He got sacked and his head got slammed against the turf. He kind of ran. This was his own head running into a defender. Um,
yeah. But it
so
wasn't just any defender, though, Mike. Did you see who it was that he
oh
collided
yeah,
with?
it was
It wasn't Jamar Ham.
Lamar Hamlin. Yes, that's as like the who who of course had his own brush with death, I guess, or which we might call it that when he
Yeah,
you know cardiac event on against the Bengals a couple of years ago, and yeah, so and he made
yeah,
yeah, that's kind of ironic.
yeah, yeah. He didn't like lower his head or anything. Even it was just Tua put his head down again. I mean, this is one of those things I think the league has not really emphasized enough, even for offensive players, about like actually putting their heads down to take
Mhm.
contact. But like, so supposedly, like the neck and head like support contact better with the like your face up instead of down.
Yeah.
So like any kind of compacting of the head down onto the neck, is an increased risk of all kinds of injuries, neck and head related.
Hmm.
So it seems like there should be more of a focus on at every level, like even like from the very beginning to like be trying to get players to make sure they don't put their heads down when they are going to take impact. I mean, it has to like fight your urge and your like just natural instinct probably to put your head down. But
Yeah, a few years ago they were even on off like they've been going after defensive players for lowering their heads for a while, but they for a few years ago they were actually trying to do that with offensive players for a little bit. If you remember that, I think a couple of Chiefs got penalties for lowering
yeah,
their heads offensively, but then that emphasis seems to have gone away. Um,
but it's not. I mean, it's not just the penalizing it happening. Like it seems like there just needs to be like a concerted effort for training so that it doesn't. Like the people coming into the league already know not to do that. So that's like they're just like ready to like actually help protect themselves and other players in a violent sport. So, but I mean, there are a lot of injuries this week too, and
yeah, we
at
have.
least it's not just with certain teams and their quarterbacks, but all over the league and in lots of different positions, including in Kansas City now too.
Yeah, we had before we get to the Chiefs injuries, we had lots of wide receiver injuries. We had already the Rams had Puka Nacua going out. Now they have Cooper Cup going out for a few more weeks with an ankle injury. Justin Jefferson got hurt. Deebo Samuel got hurt. There were a number of big injuries that may or may not be long lasting or serious, but it seems like there are a lot of people getting dinged up. Um, Yeah, but for the Chiefs, their biggest injury was Isiah Pacheco. What do you think? How do you think? So the Chiefs, they did end up winning just barely by the skin of their teeth against Cincinnati. Mahomes didn't have a great game, to say the least. Two,
Hmm.
two interceptions, only 151 yards passing, which I think is his lowest number ever in a game, at least a game that he's finished playing. So
Right.
he had lower in that Denver game when he had his dislocated kneecap. But yeah, this is it was yeah, Pacheco ended up breaking his fibula, right? On one of the
Yeah.
late plays of the game. And he's going to be out in the next half, probably half season, 6 to 8 weeks at least. What do
Yeah.
you think? What do you think the Chiefs will do in Pacheco's absence?
Well, it seems like they're have pretty good expectation for Steele,
Yeah,
right?
Carson. Yeah, he had a fumble.
He did fumble, but they went right back to him in a late game scenario to like make sure to maintain the lead or maintain like their chance to win, and they were still willing to go to him, and he didn't fumble again. So it seems like they have good confidence in him, and they still have what Samaje Perine,
Mhm.
uh, who has been in the league for a long time. So they have guys that have been around, and now I think they've also maybe as of this morning even now signed Kareem Hunt to make a
Yes,
return to Kansas City.
practice squad. Yes, yeah, making a triumphant return after kind of ignoble exit in 2018 when the footage of him in the fisticuffs with the woman in the hotel came to light. Yeah, but he's played the last 5 years with the Browns and has had varying levels of success with Cleveland, mostly being Nick Chubb's backup, but when he started, he played very well usually. He was a solid. He was a solid player, even through last year. I'm not exactly sure why he didn't stay with the Browns. Maybe too expensive, or they have a number of younger options in Cleveland. But yeah, he's a interesting, I think,
But
potential.
also very good at catching passes out of the backfield, which is something that the Chiefs would very much value as well. So it's
Yeah,
not surprising that they'd go to somebody like him, but also like what happened to them, Jerick McKinnon? Did he end up signing elsewhere?
McKinnon is still out there.
So it seems
So
like that would be another guy that they would be probably talking to, you would
I
guess.
think I think the Chiefs might still think he's injured, and he might
Um,
still have a little bit of he might be have lingering injuries from last year. He was injured at the end of last year. I don't think he played in the
that's
Super Bowl,
that's
uh,
right.
or maybe even in the AFC Championship game he might have sat out too. But he had some injury issues, and I think I think Hunt, if he's healthy, combines actually both the Pacheco and McKinnon roles, and that he could catch it out of the backfield, and he's also kind of a bruising force uh,
Yeah,
as a runner as well. Uh, McKinnon's more of a finesse guy when he runs it.
yeah,
Hunt combines some of the Pacheco kind of bullishness, I think, and as much smoother catching the ball, or at least he was. He may have lost a step over the last few years, but he still might. It was an interesting. I think it's an interesting pickup. Yeah, I think we'll have Carson Steele for the next couple of weeks, probably as Hunt kind
maybe
of
primary. Yeah,
yeah.
maybe he'll be the primary back even, or
Yeah, P Ryan I think is I think P Ryan and Hunt maybe are do kind of the same things too. I think P Ryan's a good runner too. But
yeah,
he's also it's kind of interesting because we thought the Chiefs running back room was a little bit thin, and now with Edwards-Helaire still out on the kind of mental health issues. Uh, the two out of the three, maybe we think two out of the three running backs are going to be in the not too distant future are going to be Hunt and P Ryan, who were not with the Chiefs in training camp. So
right.
still, P Ryan's still, I guess, probably learning the offense. Hunt, I don't know how similar the offense in Cleveland was, but he's had 5 years out of the Chiefs offense, so maybe he'll be able to get back into it, but it might take a little bit of time to kind
Yeah.
of things.
So at this very moment, though, Mike, are you more concerned about the Chiefs running backs or the left tackle situation with Kingsley Suamataia being pulled late in the game
Yeah,
for
he got pulled for Wanye Morris, who It
Yeah,
was great because he caught a touchdown pass, but Wanya Morris also had a critical penalty that almost cost the Chiefs the game when he had, was it a holding or a hands to the face on the fourth
yeah,
and
hands
six,
in the face was the late one, I think.
on the horse on the fourth and six pass to that was complete. Was it Rice or maybe it was Worthy? I can't remember who the pass
I
was
can't
completed
remember.
to, but it was a play that kept the chains moving, and but then it led to the desperation fourth and 16 pass, which fortunately there was a pass interference penalty on Cincinnati on Rashee Rice that allowed the Chiefs to get into field goal range and tie the game. They were very fortunate to have. I don't think it was a wrong call or anything, but they were very fortunate to have that happen.
Yeah, and I think the official almost decided not to throw the flag, but I think it was just too much contact to not throw the flag because it came in a bit late. But
Yeah,
on seeing the replay, it was pretty clearly early contact, and they usually throw a flag on that. So
and it seems like
thankfully they
everyone's.
did. But I don't like seeing the Chiefs like being in the position to like needing, I'm almost reliant on like the officials actually calling the game the way you expect them to. You'd rather
Yeah.
see them just, win these games by a lot of points because they seem to be the better team, although they did not play very well in this particular game.
No, Mahomes had a couple of bad interceptions. I thought the second one wasn't that bad. It was maybe a ball that could have been overthrown a little bit more, but it was a great one-handed reception by the
Incredible
defensive
catch.
for
But it was on the same drive where there was another
another
interception that had
interception.
been
Yep,
reversed on a different
on
penalty.
a penalty against Kelsey that wasn't too terribly egregious, but maybe that was why Mahomes threw up for grabs because he saw the penalty flag fly. But
Yeah, it's
interception
possible.
was one where he just didn't seem to see the Bengals linebacker, and it seems like the Bengals still give Mahomes fits for some reason more than any other team, and I'm not quite sure why. But
Yeah.
Lou Bruno, the defensive coordinator for the Bengals, seems to draw up game
Hmm.
plans that no matter who's in the because there's a lot of different people. It's the Cincinnati defense is not the same as it's been over the past couple of years. They've lost some key players in the secondary, especially, and they still are doing quite well against Mahomes. So it's got to be frustrating, I think, for the Chiefs not to be able to figure out the defense of Cincinnati.
Yeah. And now we're through kind of these two initial, sort of like back to back, very tough opponents that we expect to see probably joining the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Do you think the Chiefs now that they have started the season 2-0? You think they're in the mindset of trying to go for all of the wins
Ooh, go
in
for
their
it.
three-peat, or do you think is that too? You think that's too much for them to even think about?
I think at least at this stage of the season, it's too much to think about. The next two games are against teams that maybe we thought were going to be pushovers early on. There's Atlanta and New Orleans, and those games are both going to be on the road against those NFC South teams that are both doing fairly well. Atlanta beating Philadelphia last week or last night. We're filming this on Tuesday, and New Orleans winning their first two games in blowout fashion. I think both of those games are probably tougher than what we thought they were going to be going
Yeah,
in. One of those two games, it seems like those are games Chiefs like to lose too, because on the road against maybe an opponent that's not supposed to be as good. And the Chiefs tend to play, was we talk about the play down to the level of their opponent or not really care as much about the regular season.
yeah,
They um, but I don't know if again being able to turn it on and turn it off it's a risky. I think it's still very risky. I would like you. I think just prefer the Chiefs to win games by a lot of points, and like the Ravens sometimes do when they are it seems like playing, or the 49ers. They aren't afraid to run it up. And
you just picked two teams that dropped games this last
yeah,
week,
yes,
and they should have been winning handily, most likely, as to
yeah,
what the expectation was. So,
yeah.
So who knows about anything in the NFL right now, I guess. And that's kind of where we fell, I think, on our picks for this week.
Yeah, speaking of the
And that
Chiefs,
we
yeah,
didn't do so well.
yeah, I went 0-3. You went 1-2 at least, but we were still talking about the Chiefs a little bit. I picked the Chiefs Bengals to be under. I think it was under. It was a 47 and a half. That game went to 51
It's
with
48 and a half was the
48 and a half under, and then went to 51. So I guess if the Chiefs had not made that last field goal, I would have won. But I'm happy that the Chiefs won. So the Butker field goal, even though it tipped it to the over, I'm
yeah.
still happy about that.
You'll take the loss there to get the win for the team.
Yes, yes,
Happily. I
yes.
always think so.
Yeah,
So some
Butker.
of those are like sort of like you can make some bets like as a consolation prize if your team loses, sort of thing, right? But
Mhm.
you don't want it to go that way.
No.
No, no.
So why don't we cover your lone win before we of our locks of the week before we get to our other four losses?
My lone or our, I guess, actual lone win this week was the was that I had the Washington Commanders winning or covering the spread, 2.5 point spread against the New York Giants.
They did it by half a point.
Um, and they just barely did, and that was that an overtime game or was that a late field goal? I can't remember that.
21-18. I don't think it went to overtime.
One of
21-18.
the games went to overtime, but it wasn't that one, was it?
I don't believe so.
I was thinking one of the games ended up going to OT. No, it wasn't that one. Yeah,
Seahawks Patriots went to OT.
that was the overtime game. Yeah.
23-20 Seahawks. Um, that was a game I predicted correctly on the big board, but not on the one of the few games I predicted correctly on the big board, but not
Um,
on our locks of the week. But yeah, the
the Commanders did win on a last second field goal. It
one
wasn't.
of their seven field goals that they kicked against the Giants, whose kicker ironically was injured on the very first play of or one of the first plays of the game, a first quarter kickoff. That he was injured on, and so the Giants they scored three touchdowns, but were unable to convert any extra points because they did not have a kicker later in the game. So they lost. I think they said that I saw that they're the second team to lose to another team. A team that scored three touchdowns was there was a second team to score three touchdowns and lose to a team that did not score any touchdowns in the same game. So that seems very difficult, and it required seven field goals from the heroic uh, Washington Commanders kicker Austin Siebert.
No, and none of them were very long. Actually, they were
No, they
all
were all like yeah 40. I think within 40 yards. I believe
the longest was 45,
45. Okay.
but the second longest was only 33. So they got very close to the end zone repeatedly without being able to get into the end zone. Apparently,
So if you had Austin Siebert on your fantasy team, this week would have been a good week to.
yeah. Are you picking him up now for next week for your fantasy game?
No, I don't think chasing kicker fantasy points is the way to win your league. Um,
Unless your team is so stacked that the only thing that you're missing
unless you think I think picking a kicker that has an offense that is a good offense, but an offense that tends to go for a lot of field goals rather than score a lot of touchdowns.
yeah.
That's the fantasy sweet spot, and I don't know if Washington's offense is good enough for that, both good enough and bad enough to be the ideal. Pittsburgh is kind of the ideal, I think, kicker right now with its inability to score touchdowns, and of course, they had Boswell, I think, had six field goals in week one. I think two more in week two.
But that is your fantasy football draft strategy is always to lock down your kicker and your defense in rounds 1 and 2.
Yeah, yes, that's a way to win. Um,
The Mike Orman key to success.
yes,
fantasy football drafts.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly how to do it.
This is where we need like a big graphic that goes across the screen of the keys to success.
No, it's not. It's not the way to do it. People following at home, even although I'm not. I do fairly well in fantasy football, but I'm not a consistent winner. But I'm not bad either usually. But there have been a lot. Of course, this year this is there have been lots of injuries of late, which we talked about. So I'm
Yeah.
my teams are have hit the injury bug over the last week or so. But what my second loss instead of my second lock of the week, the
Yes.
was um another over under where I predicted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions to have a high scoring affair, but it actually turned out to be a pretty low scoring affair. Only I think it was only 20 to 16 was the final. Um,
Yep. Yeah.
and I think the over under was close to 50, wasn't it?
50 and a half.
50 and a half. And I picked 30, only had 36 points scored. So that was way under. I was way off. Um, but and the Buccaneers ended up beating the Lions. I should have gone Lions were favored, I think, by 7.5. I should have gone with the spread for the Buccaneers, but I did not. So I picked the wrong one on that game. But yeah, so that's another loss for yours truly.
Yeah, my second pick that was yeah, now into my losses anyway, was I guess was maybe one of the more surprising ones was the Baltimore minus 9.5 against the Raiders. I expected Baltimore to run it up, and not only did they not run it up, but they actually lost the game. So they not only failed to cover, but actually lost
Yes.
also. So not didn't turn out at all the way that I or many people expected anyway.
No, I think the Raider I think the Ravens spread was one of the most heavily bet, and everybody was betting on the Ravens side of that game.
Even
So
at 9.5, yeah.
yeah. Um yeah, we don't need to dwell on our losses, and I don't want to dwell on my third loss, which I was I was the home underdog. Tennessee Titans were 3.5 point underdogs against the New York Jets, and I thought 3.5 is a lot of points. I thought maybe the Jets might squeak by and win, but they won by a full touchdown, 24-17. So my 3.5 points was not enough to cover the spread, and Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets took that game by 7. So I was 3.5 points off. So that's how you end up as 0-3. A wrong pick on the over, a wrong pick on the under, and a wrong pick on the spread. So um, that's the
Sort of trifecta you
mhm.
don't really expect, but yeah, you definitely don't want it to happen. My last pick was a bit of a bad beat to some extent anyway, where I had Houston minus 6.5 against Bears. The Bears kicked a late field goal to cut the lead to 6. So I ended up yeah losing that bet by a half a point. Houston still won that one though, but only by 6.
Only by 6. So you at least were close on your loan on one of your defeats. So you were this close to being 2-1. I
Yes.
was not that close to being anything but 0-3. So
Yeah.
uh, and that was sort of a harbinger of the rest of my week, which was also awful. I only got a few games right. It seems like I missed most of the money line games because there were so many upsets. I picked mostly favorites, and
Yeah.
my favorites
Well,
deserted me.
because that's what week one looked like. Week one favorites were
Yeah.
almost across the board victors and didn't quite look that way at all this week. 'Cause I think we yeah, we were both pretty favorite heavy on the money line, and
Hmm.
neither of us got even half the games right. So that's
Yeah.
a very surprising theme for a week in the NFL.
But at least you were saved by the over-unders. You got 12 out of the 16 over-unders correct. And so you ended up being just over on the week, $116 in positive territory on the week. I was actually $1,400 under. So I'm down almost $2,000 this year already. You are up about $245 this year. So you are uh, comfortably in the lead in this year's race, but it's a long season. We'll see how it goes, but maybe it'll turn out like last year where you ended up winning the regular season. I think I came back in the playoffs and did better in the playoffs. But yeah, the regular season was all Dr. Scaff. So
Yeah.
it turns out
Yeah,
volume is your friend, Dr. Scaff. So betting on everything is good for you. Betting on, well, it didn't really matter for me. My locks didn't work and my bets didn't come through either. My scatter shot bets didn't come through either. This was just a bad week for me. Hopefully it's a blip on an otherwise stellar season.
exactly. Yes. So yeah, just getting ready to move on and try to like hone in on what did work and maybe make some changes elsewhere. And
Yes. We'll
so
see how it.
maybe the strategy is that where we're going with this for the next week's
Yeah.
picks?
I am
Yeah.
looking at, yeah, I'm looking at, I have a couple of different options as I'm going right now, but for the big board, but for this week's picks, I'm going away from the over unders right now and going back to spreads for my locks of the week. Um,
Yeah.
but
That sounds like a
we'll get to that
good strategy.
in a little bit after we discuss the Kansas City Royals, who were on a bit of a tear, but now have lost three in a row because they've lost two. They lost tonight in extra innings to Detroit 3-1. Uh, Dr. Scaff, both you and I had a chance to go to the Royals game over the past few days. I went to the Royals game on Saturday against the Pittsburgh Pirates in Pittsburgh, a game that they won. I think it was 5-2, something like that they won.
Hmm.
Bobby Witt Jr. hit a leadoff home run, and the Royals never looked back. And then you went to a game where Bobby Witt Jr. hit a grand slam, but the Royals ended up losing that one, like 7-6, after having a 5-1 lead. So,
They
um,
did look back, and it didn't go
yeah,
in
that's what
that
double.
case.
That's yeah.
Yeah. So
So
the last 2 days for the Royals have been like again punctuated by bullpen usage issues that has been like an ongoing theme this season about specifically relief pitchers coming in for a second inning, and it has not gone well in most of the opportunities in the last, well, really several months. And so not sure why they continue to go back to the same strategy when it's clearly not working at all. I guess eventually it has to stop not working. I don't think that's true. Like, it's a trend.
the trend. I believe you think that the Royals are one of the dumber teams in baseball, the way they've been using their pitchers. They are, if you look at their expanded statistics, the Royals' expected win-loss record should be 87-65. However, they're sitting at 82-70. They're full 5 games below what their expected win-loss record would be. And I believe you, Dr. Scaff, think they should be approaching 90 wins on the season. But for managerial incompetence, pitcher usage problems, maybe lineup construction issues. You think the Royals should be doing better than what they are. Why don't you explain your position?
I think just on decision making alone, they should probably have the best record in the American League, which is not that big of a stretch from where they are. Even it's only about 8 games off of I think where they are as the top team in the American League. So I mean,
Less than that. The Yankees and the Guardians each have 87 wins. The Royals have 82, so they're only
oh,
five.
it's only 5 wins.
Yeah.
I think even at the All-Star break, I think I had about 10 games or so that I thought the Royals had just given away based on bullpen usage and lineup instruction. That you know, in the last 2 days there have been 2 games where we could make arguments about the bullpen usage causing problems, and really the lineup too. Like even in the game that I went to on Monday night, it was they used a pinch hitter and a pinch runner for one position in in like a seventh inning opportunity, and then they like were out of players to pinch hit for someone in the ninth inning where they could have possibly come back. So it's like just kind of situations where they aren't very conservative with how they use players. Like 2 days ago, I think Adam Frazier started a game and then was out in the fourth inning for no reason other than just like he was lifted for a pinch hitter. It wasn't like he was injured. It's just dumb stuff like this that we see that, if he's going to be pulled for a pinch hitter that early, why is he starting a game? Like he's a decent defensive player. See him coming in as a defensive replacement when no one would bat an eye at it. But, being lifted for a pinch hitter in the fourth inning seems like a complete waste of him you know, and the pinch hitter then in many cases. So it's just very dumb to be playing spring training baseball in September. Like it's very frustrating as someone who, you know, is a baseball fan and like knows a bit about how, lineups should be built and how you should use players. And it's it's infuriating to watch this team sometimes, even though they've won 82 games or in playoff position. So
Yeah,
it's
they're still 95% likely to make the playoffs according to ESPN right now.
yeah.
So very likely 19 out of 20 chance. But yeah, it's I
But some of
the
these decision-making things are things that like make it almost impossible to see the team advancing in the playoffs when they make them, unless they completely collapse and drop out.
yeah, one highlight from the Royals loss tonight, lost 3-1, was that Bobby Witt Jr. became the first shortstop to have multiple 30 home run, 30 stolen base seasons in Major League Baseball history, which I didn't realize had never happened before. I would have guessed somebody like Alex Rodriguez or maybe Lindor or one of those shortstops would have had multiple 30-30 seasons, but
Yeah, I wonder if Rodriguez did it as a third baseman, then if that's how it came out.
he probably didn't have too many stolen bases with the Yankees. They weren't really a running
Yeah,
uh, team.
because Alex Rodriguez was a 40-40 guy though too, wasn't he? So did he never have a second 30-30?
Apparently not. He had
He was
46
40-40 in
stolen
98.
1 year, and he never had more than 28 stolen bases later in his career. So
Yeah. So the 46 steals was the outlier for this.
yeah,
Yeah.
he had 42 home runs and 46 steals that year, but then he hit over 40 home runs several more times.
Yeah.
Uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more years he hit over 40 home runs. 3 more years he hit over 50 home runs. Of course, he hit 696 home runs in his career. That he might have actually challenged Babe Ruth's home run record had not been suspended because of, I mean, not Babe Ruth's, Babe Ruth's record, and also Hank Aaron's home run record had not been suspended for performance enhancing drugs later in his career, and also he kind of ended his career a little bit with a whimper rather than a bang. So, um, he's also not in the Hall of Fame, despite being a truly Hall of Fame level player for so many years. Um, but yeah, so that was he. Yeah, so I guess Witt is the only 30 multiple 30-30 uh guy
So
from
Lindor did have 31-31 last season, and he's at 31 home runs and 27 steals right now.
Ooh, okay, so Lindor could
So
perhaps
Lindor could join him
join him.
maybe this week even, or this week or next week.
Yes,
It's possible anyway.
it is possible. Interesting.
The Mets did score 10 runs today. Did he steal a base? He did not. He actually did not play today, so no. It's hard to steal a base when you're not playing the game.
No, yeah, that's extremely difficult. One of the most difficult things to do, I think, when it comes to base stealing, is to steal bases from the dugout.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were on this Royals on a week, playing well one week, playing terrible the next week, well the next week. This is
mhm.
the week after that. Seems to be maybe back to terrible again,
Yeah, they
possibly.
played well for a little while, then now they're back to bad. So hopefully the Royals can right the ship against Detroit, because Detroit's actually surging ahead and maybe threatening for playoff position even. I think they're 79 or 80 and 73 now, or 79 and 73, something like that.
And the Twins and Guardians are playing each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Guardians won on Monday. Looks like the Twins won today, so they will hold Detroit off at least anyway.
The Twins are 1.5 games above Detroit for the last
Yeah.
third wild card. The Royals are only 3 games up on the third wild card right now. So, um, and the Mariners are surging too. They've won 3 in a row. So it it's yeah, the Royals need to avoid their avoid cratering.
The Mariners are down 6-1 today to
Okay.
the Yankees, so they do have a tough opponent.
Mhm.
But I think this series with Detroit ends the Royals' American League opponents for the year, because I believe they end up playing 3 interleague games, interleague series to finish the season. I think they go to San Francisco.
Yes, they go to San Francisco, then at Washington. They're home against San Francisco, at
Oh, San Francisco
Washington,
here, okay.
at Atlanta.
And then ending in Atlanta, which is seemingly strange. So apparently, the schedule makers did not think that the Royals were going to be in playoff contention uh, to schedule a division rivals in the final week, not even playing American League teams in the final week. So that's a bit strange from the historical schedule making, anyway. So,
Yes,
do
that's
you think that that'll take something away from this if they clinch the playoffs against the other league? Does that seem strange?
I think it seems strange because usually we think of the season winding up with division rivals, but the way that
Yeah,
the schedule is balanced in a way that it hasn't been before. So it's no longer the like 19 games against divisional opponents anymore.
right.
I think it's 12 games
13, I
or
think.
13 games.
Something.
Yeah, yeah. But the one of the Royals divisional opponents, the Chicago White Sox, is threatening to have the worst record in Major League Baseball history. It's I think there are 36 and 111. Is that
115.
what are
Yeah,
they're
115, 36 and 115, I
36 and
think.
115? And and they've won
Yeah.
3 games in a row to get the 36. So do you
Yeah.
what do you think the number of wins the White Sox will have at the end of the year? Will they pass 40 victories? Which
Yeah,
is
so
what
they can still get there. Or 34. Is it 34? No, 36. It is 36, right? Yeah. Oh, it would be 42 wins would be the fewest wins in the 162 game season era. I believe
Mhm.
120 losses is the major league record. Yeah, so they only need they can still go 6-5 to only tie the worst record. So it seems like they're
At the
likely to blow
66.
past that. Does that sound right?
Well, they have to if they win out, they will. But I guess if they win out, they'll if they go 6-5, if they have a winning record, they can get to
They can
42.
only tie.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah,
they're
do
losing
you
right
think that
now.
they
They're
will?
losing right now to the Los Angeles Angels 4-0. So they looks like they will probably lose tonight.
Yeah.
So they'll have to go 6 and
So yeah, so
Four.
what's your guess for total losses on the season?
I'd
Do you
say
think
I'm
they'll go
guess
like 4 or 5 past the 120?
I'll go 123. I'll go they lose 123.
I was thinking 124 actually,
Okay.
so I'm gonna go with that 124.
Okay. Well, of course, they could have done it without their solid management and general management being former Royals. So former Royals coach Pedro Grifol was their manager most of the season, and Chris Getz, former Royal, has been the general manager most of the season. So I think they've just been extra royaled, and that's why they've done so poorly. So, but hopefully the Royals won't.
Probably has something to do with it. Like,
Well, hopefully the Royals won't royal themselves out of playoff position over the next couple of weeks, but we'll keep an eye on that. Should we move on to talking about this week's NFL action and our bets, our
I
locks
think
of the
so.
week, or maybe the anti-locks of the week? Anti-locks, the other side can, if we pick it as a lock, maybe it's your um, prerogative to go the opposite way, to Costanza all of our bets.
Yes. Yeah, I guess I could have chosen this week to just wait till you make your picks and then just pick the complete opposite.
Yes, that would have been a good strategy, Dr. Scaff. Too bad you
That
thought
way
of
we would be likely to end up with 3 wins between us, which would be a record for this season.
yes, yes. We'll see how it turns out. But um we have lots of interesting games coming up in week 3. We have the Chiefs playing the Falcons on Sunday night, probably the game we're looking forward to the most. Chiefs are favored by 4.5. Do you have any early guesses on the Chiefs?
If I was going to pick the game this week, I think I would still stick with the Chiefs covering and winning. I just can't see the Chiefs playing like that against, the Bengals. I think it's like a special game for both teams. But I think they're probably going to be catching like everybody's best every week. So it's, you know, everyone's going to be gunning for the Chiefs, trying to like topple them in their quest for this three-peat. So, but I still think the Chiefs are seemingly like playing fairly well. It seemed like they started to like open up the passing game a little bit.
Hmm.
In week 2, we did see one long pass to Rasheed Rice, which was very nice, which we haven't seen really in a while. So I think maybe they'll try to go for more plays like that downfield. So I'm hoping we'll see some of that. I think yeah, if I was picking it right now, I would take the Chiefs covering the spread. I'd
Mm,
probably keep the under though. I don't know that it's going to be that high of a scoring game.
mm.
What do you think so far?
Well, unfortunately, you were going with what I was thinking. I
No.
was I was
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
so I was thinking the Chiefs were going to win. I thought maybe they would actually cover on the road. I thought maybe because they'd be forced with Pacheco being out, they'd be forced to throw the ball more, and if they threw the ball more, they would score more points. And I thought the defense would be able to hold. I think Atlanta's offense has been even though they beat Philadelphia, they still only scored 22 points against a fairly porous Philadelphia defense, and they couldn't muster very many points um, against Pittsburgh. So I thought maybe this would actually be a Chiefs win, something like 46.5 was the over under. So I was thinking maybe something like 20, uh, 28 to um 14 or 28 to 17 kind of Chiefs win, which would stick with the under. So, but
The over is 46.5 as of right now.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean even like they could go even higher though, right? So it could be like a
31-14 would stay under.
would still
Uh
be fine, yeah.
yeah, but I don't yeah,
It's
I'm
probably gonna be a little closer than that, you mean.
yeah,
It's probably gonna be more like a 20, 24-19 or something like that, you know.
Yeah, that would be
Something
under.
something bizarre. Just not the 24-20. You just don't want that.
You don't want
With
24-20.
the four and
No,
a half point spread.
no. Um, Although I think the Chiefs might be down to 3.5 in some books. So because
But
of the Pacheco injury, I would.
that's probably fine for us because we won't be making those picks officially now anyway, right? So
Yeah. How about our official?
we'll hope they shift in our favor as the week goes on.
Yeah, we'll hope they ship. How about our official picks? Do you want to start with the official picks of this week?
Sure. Yeah, I think my strategy changed a little bit this week too. Um, I think I'm more of like picking against teams that I don't think have shown much so far this season. Like I like more about picking against teams that than I am like picking for teams I think I understand anyway.
Yeah.
So it seems easier to understand the teams that haven't shown much. And now Carolina is going to be a weird team because they're now changing their quarterback at this point.
Yeah, it's
So
no more Bryce Young. We
they're
we haven't said
yeah
Andy Dalton.
because they're being shifted more into an unknown category because we if they would have stuck with Bryce Young, you could say like, okay, we know they're not very good. You can safely pick against Carolina basically in every scenario. But now I'm not sure that you can do that. It's a different it seems like a different team now. So I'm kind of avoiding that for now anyway. My first pick today, I think, is even with Green Bay, not having Jordan Love, I don't think Tennessee is a very good team. I think you've been kind of on the other side of this fence on Tennessee earlier in the season. But I haven't seen much from them. I don't think that they seem to be that solid of a team right now. So Green Bay is an underdog on the road in Tennessee. I'm going to take Green Bay at plus 2.5 at Tennessee.
Taking Malik Willis, former backup to Will Levis, to beat his old team, and which
A
I
little
think
added storyline to that one, yes.
I could see that happening. Will Levis has been giving the ball away at a prodigious rate, so that's been Tennessee's problem. They've even if they dominated the game against Chicago and they still lost because of defensive touchdowns allowed by the offense or given away by the offense with Levis's interceptions and things like that. So um, yeah, it's block punts, stuff like that. I think they've had a punt blocked in each of their first two games now, which is unusual, which is pretty
Yeah,
unusual
very
for an
strange.
NFL
Yeah.
team. So yeah, the Tennessee is going through some pains right now. So maybe in Green Bay, we were worried about Green Bay, but they ended up beating um, uh, Indianapolis at home with Malik Willis. Indianapolis has been struggling this year. Now they're 0-2. Green Bay is up to 1-1. So yeah, maybe Green Bay will be able to take it at Tennessee. I think that's an interesting pick. I don't know which way I would go at this point, but I could see Green Bay um, winning and things imploding in Tennessee, but I could also maybe see Tennessee riding the ship. But I haven't decided that. But I think your pick makes sense, even though I may or may not go with that same pick when I make
I'm okay with you not liking that pick though. So if
because
you said you were confidently on the other side of it, I'd be more comfortable with my pick, possibly.
so I'm since I've been really bad with it, I'm wondering what I want to do. Um, with my first pick, I'm also probably on the side that you are not. Um,
Hmm.
I'm going to go the Houston Minnesota game. Houston is at Minnesota. Houston is favored by 2.5 points. I'm actually going to take the home underdog Minnesota Vikings coming off their two straight victories over the Giants and also at home against San Francisco, who I think is a better team than Houston. Somehow, if especially I think Justin Jefferson's injury is not going to be too bad. Sam Darnold's played pretty well. The Vikings defense has actually played pretty well. So I think I think Houston is. We talked about this off the air. I was thinking that of the teams that were highly favored going into the season, I thought that were maybe due for a little bit of a crashing back down to earth. One was Detroit, which maybe is what's happening in Detroit. They lost to Tampa Bay. Uh, They could have easily lost that game to the Rams as well. We'll see what
Mhm.
happens. My second bet is that one of my bets is actually going to involve the Detroit heading to Arizona. You can probably see which way I'm going with that one already. But I'm Houston is my Detroit of the AFC. I think people were thinking of Houston as being a possible Super Bowl contender. I am not quite sure. I still think I still want to see more from them, and so I'm going with Minnesota at home. Minnesota has been maybe I'm just riding the hot hand, and that's not a good way to go after it. But 2.5 points, 2.5 point underdog. That means they don't even have to win the game as long as they stay within 2.5. So if they lose by one or two, I'll still have the upper hand there on this bet. So I like getting the points with Minnesota.
We both went with 2.5 point underdogs in our first picks. It was pretty interesting, I think. There aren't
Yes.
that many. That's a very specific thing, but yeah, I still think is a good team, and I'm not worried about them as of now. Maybe if they drop this game against Minnesota, then I'll become concerned a bit about Houston. But I still think that Houston is likely moving forward. Not I'm not expecting them to see them regress. I don't think so.
One of the few matchups of 2-0 teams this week.
Somebody has to
Hmm.
not win, I guess, right?
Yes.
I guess they could both not win if they tie. So
Good tie. Yeah. Yeah. And then I'd come out on top if they tied.
yeah, you'd be fine with that.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. My second pick, going for a home favorite. Not one of the teams that I really like to bet on. This is more of a bet against the New York Giants. Cleveland's favored by 6.5 points at home against the Giants. I don't think the Giants are very good. I don't know how they're going to score many points against Cleveland's defense, which has been pretty solid. And maybe this game comes down to extra points again, and the 6.5 points, is a good enough number, I think, to for Cleveland to cover.
Yeah. The Giants will pick up a backup. I think they picked up a kicker off the um Lions practice squad or something. I saw. I can't remember who it was. He's a veteran. I can't remember his name though. But
Mm.
so no Gano, but they'll have a kicker of this game, which is more than they had the last game. So they'll have at least theoretically they'll have a kicker through the whole game. But yeah, Cleveland kind of righted the ship. They look bad against Dallas, and then they look better against the Jaguars, who although maybe Jacksonville's just really bad. It's hard to say so far. They
Yeah,
haven't looked great either game. But yeah, I think New York Giants on the road. Cleveland, yeah, that looks like a solid pick. I'm not sure. Yeah, 6.5 is a lot of points, like you said, though. So I'll look into that game more closely as we get closer to it. I'm also picking my second pick. My first pick was an NFC home team. My second pick will also be an NFC home team, as will my third team pick. So I'll pick all NFC home teams. So that'll be my theme going through today. My second pick is going to be Philadelphia at New Orleans. New Orleans is favored by 1.5 points. New Orleans has looked really, really good in their first two games against Carolina and Dallas. Philadelphia have won a close game against Green Bay, lost a close game um, against Atlanta. I think Philadelphia's defense is a little bit porous. New Orleans' offense under Clint Kubiak has been extra click has been clicking under Clint Kubiak with all
that's
the
also clicking with a K, that
clicking
too.
with the K. Yeah,
Yes.
Clint clicking Kubiak. Uh, yeah, so I think the Clint Kubiak will continue to click as coordinator of the classic uh, Saints offense.
There's a silent K on Saints.
Maybe the quick strike uh, attack. Well, we can have K's anywhere in the. We'll it'll be both consonants and alliteration that we'll use to get as many comedy K's in Clint Kubiak's uh, sentences. But yeah, I think I like New Orleans to win that game, and they're only favored 1.5, so I think they can win by at least a field goal. And so I like New Orleans at home with only a 1.5 point spread.
One of the things I thought was really impressive though from the Saints last game is just they managed to score 44 points. Derek Carr only completed 11 passes, so that's
Yeah,
pretty
that's pretty
efficient
impressive.
use of offense
Yeah,
anyway.
Derek Carr will have to change his name, Derek Carr with a K. At least Derek ends with a K.
Yes.
Comedy, Clint Kubiak. In yeah. Um, so we'll see how the Saints do. How about your final pick of the week? Final lock of the week.
Yeah, I do like your New Orleans pick there. Was it minus one and one
Minus
and a
one.
half?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty solid guess right now. My last pick. Now I'm going to switch over to an over under. The other thing that I've been fairly confident in what I've seen so far this year from the NFL is that the Chargers and Steelers don't score a lot of points. They don't give up a lot of points. So both teams have been on the under side of each of their games. They're playing each other this week. Chargers at Steelers. The over under was 36 and a half. None of their games have really approached the under number, which has been fairly low in all of their other games. So I'm going to stick with the under here on this Chargers Pittsburgh 36 and a half, Mike. Would you be willing to go under a game that low?
36.5 is really, really, really low. So I would be hesitant because they put it so low, but I wouldn't
Yes.
I'm not going to put it past them though. So I could see a 17-14 game pretty easily. I could also see but I could also see it sneak up to 20-17 and get up to 37. So that's not, you know, I could
I'm
see
not
it.
sure that either team's going to get out of the single digits, Mike. That's where I think this game's going.
Yeah, well, that would be under 30.
Both teams have pretty solid defensive play, so unless there's like a bunch of defensive scores, I'll be surprised. But I don't think either of the quarterbacks is that willing to take that many risks.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game at all.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know either. Yeah, it's hard to say. I think it's gonna be low scoring, but 36.5 is extremely low. And it's one but I'm also thinking of taking all unders this this go round on the big board. So then I would go under anyway. Because yeah.
Yeah. It would follow a trend though. It's like the over under numbers dropped pretty significantly from week one to week two. And it looks like week three over under numbers are even lower than week two with Vegas odds. So seems like Vegas is pushing that way.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it may be a safe bet too. Just take all unders and see what happens. Not as a parlay, but
Yeah.
just trying to get more correct than incorrect.
Yes. Yeah. That's my theory. Um, as my final and kind of leading to my final bet, I'm sticking with theme as well. I'm going with all NFC home teams. I'm picking the Detroit at Arizona. Detroit is actually favored by 3 on the road. Arizona is a 3-point underdog. I think Arizona's looked really good at home. They really trounced the Rams, who played Detroit tough already. So maybe by the transitive property, you would think that the Cardinals will do well against Detroit at home. I think I think Detroit might lose to Arizona. Arizona has looked they gave a very competitive game to the Bills. They beat the Rams by a lot of points. So I think maybe Arizona is especially with Marvin Harrison Jr. catching passes now from Kyler Murray. It seems like they have a solid offense. They can score a lot of points. Detroit has not been terribly prolific offensively so far. They haven't been bad, but they haven't been great either. So maybe again, it's a long road trip. It's in the desert. Arizona might be able to take it and outright. So and they're getting 3 points. So I'm going to go with Arizona over Detroit.
And that's not typically one of your favorites, is the 3 point
No,
uh spread anyway. You usually like the 2.5s or the
3.5. I like the 3.5 especially. Yeah,
yeah, not the even three.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see where that goes, but yeah, I'll take what I can get.
So yeah, in this game, are you picking more for Arizona or against Detroit in
A
this?
little bit of both, I would say. I think Arizona's playing pretty well, and I'm thinking Detroit is maybe a little bit overrated. So I'm especially as far as bettors are concerned. So that's why I like it this way. I was burned by Detroit in week one when they won the game in overtime when they covered the spread, even though it was a game that was really a tie game and one that the Rams probably should have won, but um, the cookie didn't crumble my way. So hopefully it will this time in Arizona. Maybe the tortilla chip will crumble my way.
So we do have a couple of like what we thought would be playoff teams sitting at 0 and 2 in the AFC so far. Which of the 0 and 2 AFC teams do you think are be most likely to finally get their first win of the season? Is it Jacksonville or let's see, Baltimore
I think I think Cincinnati probably the most likely.
or Cincinnati? That's it. That was the third one.
They play Washington at home. Cincinnati's 0-2. Jacksonville goes to Buffalo. I
Hmm.
don't know about that
But
game.
those are the two Monday night games this
Two
week.
Monday
I
night
mean,
games. That's an interesting. Uh,
Jacksonville and Cincinnati are each in this, and they're not playing each other. So
I think Cincinnati hosting Washington is the better pick of those two. That's for sure. Um, Baltimore at Dallas is an interesting game because the winner of that, uh, so Dallas could end up being 1-2 after that week, and so could Baltimore. You would think that if they were both finished at 1-2 after that week, Baltimore would feel much better about its chances than Dallas would at 1-2. But Baltimore could easily be 0-3 though, playing at Dallas. So that's a game that's very um, interesting. So I don't know. Dallas is, I believe, favored by 1.5. So, oh wait, no. Dallas is a home underdog by 1.5. Baltimore is favored by 1.5, which is
yeah,
a little surprising to me. But I don't know if I go against it. So there must be something that Vegas knows that I don't know. Um, yeah, those are all interesting. There's a lot of interesting games. Even though I don't think there are any too many marquee matchups, there are a lot of interesting games this week.
there are some like division rivalries, like the Thursday night game is New England against the Jets. Are you interested in that
I'm interested in it as much as
Thursday night game?
but yeah, I think the Jets are favored by a lot, which is a little unusual. I
Yeah.
don't know if we should I don't think we should jump on the Jets bandwagon just yet. The New England traditionally has the Jets number. Uh, so and it doesn't really matter who's the home or road team that much in that rivalry, I don't think.
Yeah. But New England has played surprisingly well so far
Yeah.
this season. They're what, 1 and 1? They took Seattle to overtime.
hmm Nearly
So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it could happen there, I guess too. Right? But yeah, which do you think? How do you think Skylar Thompson will do with Miami at Seattle then in the Sunday afternoon matchup, 3 p.m. game? Think Miami has any chance in this one, or do you expect to see them struggling on the road?
I see them struggling on the road with Skylar Thompson. But they do have a good running game, so maybe they can rely on that and then maybe get a few passes here and there. The last time I saw Skylar Thompson start a game was at Buffalo, and it was, frozen there in the playoffs. So maybe this game will be at least,
I know
not with.
Miami had some questions even at running back. Wasn't Mostert and Achan all like
Yeah, Achan was in
maybe
play.
neither of them were going to start, but then I think Achan did play. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, so they have issues on the running back position, but I think maybe next week they'll at least feel a little bit, they'll both feel a little bit better. But yeah,
It was
Miami,
encouraging that Achan did play.
Seattle, that's a long road trip.
No. Well, they don't have to like walk though. I mean,
Yeah,
they're gonna go by airplane, I assume.
I assume so too. But and Seattle's a loud place, so maybe the crowd could rattle Thompson. I'm not sure. But Seattle is not that great a team, I don't think.
Yeah.
So Miami is a better team than Seattle without, if you take quarterback out of it, Miami is a better team. But quarterback means a lot. So I think if
Yeah,
two,
Seattle is 2-0, but they haven't had great opponents doing Denver and New England.
yeah.
So, and
So
I'm
those,
not sure how like confident you should be in
yeah.
Seattle.
So they're starting with three AFC teams. That's interesting, Seattle,
Yeah,
where the schedule's working out.
yeah, yeah. That's strange.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe they're only playing AFC teams this year.
they're back in the AFC West like the old days.
Yeah, the schedulers just got confused.
It's
They forgot what year it was.
1996 all over again. Um,
They do face the Lions next week, so
okay, so they're back in the NFC. Um,
so they have a whole run of NFC games. Their
other
next four
games?
games are against NFC teams.
Yeah. Any other games you're looking at, or should we start wrapping this thing up this week?
Yeah, I think we've mentioned just about all the games. I think probably
I
the
think
game I'm not looking forward to. We tend to talk about these sometimes too. Is the Raiders Carolina game? Is that one you're going to be tuned into, or is that one you would skip?
I want to
Hmm.
see how bad Carolina is without how much of their awfulness is young, how much of it is just the team being bad. We also I don't think mentioned Chicago at Indianapolis, which is maybe
Hmm.
it could be an interesting game where we have Caleb Williams and Anthony Richardson in the same game. But I think that might have been the only game we hadn't mentioned. Uh,
At all? Yeah.
um, uh, so that might be so maybe I don't know if that means that we're the least interested together in Chicago, Indianapolis, or if we just happen to overlook that one. But
Yeah. I
um,
don't know. I mean, outside of like games that we actually, the game that we actually care about, the Chiefs Atlanta game, I don't, I don't really like most of the games on this week's schedule.
there aren't,
Like
yeah,
there are a lot of ugly teams playing each other, and that doesn't
yeah.
it
I
doesn't
think
this week's schedule isn't as appealing as some of the other weeks.
I
And
think
even the
Baltimore,
Chiefs playing Atlanta, there's no real rivalry there, so it's not.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, it's gonna be harder to be like really pumped for this week, I think.
Yeah. I think Baltimore, Dallas, and San Francisco against the Rams both looked really good when when they thought the schedule was being made, but neither of them looked that enticing right now,
Yeah.
especially with Dallas and San Francisco both coming off, and all four of those teams actually coming off losses this week. So, but
That's
we are
crazy.
also coming off a lot of losses this past week, so hopefully next week will be better for us as well here at the Warning Track Power Hour. I think we should probably sign off and look ahead next time. So if there's not anything else to add, uh, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Warning Track Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our podcast or our YouTube channel. But you can find our YouTube channel, of course, on YouTube, and our podcast on many different podcast delivery systems. Whichever one is your favorite, it's probably on there. And we are excited to come back next week with all new hard-hitting, hair-splitting analysis, as we mentioned last week. That's my new that's that's my new catchphrase for at least for the next week or two. And we'll continue to comment on Clint Kubiak and other Bo Nix and other oddly named uh, players and coaches in the National Football League. We'll talk more about Major League Baseball. We'll talk about our bets, and we'll talk about anything else that tickles our fancy next week on the Warren Check Power Hour. And we hope you have a good weekend watching sports, and your teams do well for you if you're making bets, or if you have a rooting interest, as long as they don't conflict with ours. Isn't that
Right.
how it usually works? Yes. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. So until next time, we'll wish you from here at the Warren Check Power, we'll wish you a good day.